Kelly doesn't notice the masked man moving in the shadows, but I see him coming from a mile away. He moves slowly behind the bushes, keeping low in an attempt to stay out of sight. His eyes never leave us as he stalks his prey. I have to admit, he's good. Much better than the others that we've encountered so far. Not quite good enough, though. Suddenly, he makes his move. Leaping from the foliage, the man lets out a ferocious yell as he extends his arms towards us. Kelly yelps and quickly takes 2 steps back before grabbing my arm. I wave once at the man as he slinks back off into the shadows. I squeeze Kelly's shoulder in what I hope is a comforting manner as we continue on. I smile reassuringly down at her, but I'd be lying if I said that a part of me isn't stating emphatically that I told her so. Last year, we came to Arcadian Heights together for the annual Nights of Fear Halloween event. The same areas of the park had been designated for actors to wander around and scare visitors, and she hadn't handled them well then, even though last year we had paid extra for the glowing necklaces that signaled to those actors not to jump scare us. This year she had insisted that she wanted the entire experience, so we hadn't purchased those necklaces. She's been jumping like a scared rabbit every single time a costumed actor comes anywhere close to her. I'm not sure what she was expecting. These are called fright zones for a reason. To her credit, though, she hasn't asked to leave or purchase one of those necklaces. She said that she was going to do something, and now she's seeing that promise through. Whether it's because of determination or simply stubbornness, it's admirable. I decide to take pity on her. "You want to go on that?" I ask, pointing at the entrance to a nearby ride. I've heard it's really amazing at night. "Sure, yeah," Kelly answers, the relief obvious in her voice. I look up at the massive roller coaster as we approach. It's called the Phantom Predator, and while I've ridden it many times during the day, I've never done so at night. It looks a lot more impressive with the purple and green neon lights lit up along its twists and loops. As I watch, a car full of riders goes racing by. The lights reflecting off of it makes it look even more eerie. The arch marking the entrance to the line is made up to look like the gaping mouth of a shadowy monster. We pass underneath the long wooden fangs and into the ride queue. It's not nearly as full as I would have thought. I guess that makes sense. The rides aren't the main reason that people come to Nights of Fear. The fright zones and haunted house attractions are. I'm sure that the Phantom Predator will get busier as the night progresses, but as things stand now, we're not going to have to wait long. The barriers turn to the right. As we make the turn, Kelly's hand brushes up against mine. That moment of contact is enough to send my mind racing. I try to pull those thoughts back. There's no point to them, at least right now. Despite my best efforts, I find myself glancing down at her. I'm quite a bit taller than she is, and I mostly get a view of the top of her blonde hair. I shake my head in frustration. This is just stupid. We've been dating for years and been friends even longer. There's absolutely no reason for me to be this nervous around her for any reason. I am, though. There's absolutely no denying how nervous I am. I'm going to be asking her to make a huge life change. If I propose to her, put everything on the line and tell her that I want to spend the rest of my life with her, and she doesn't want to take that step with me, it will be impossible to go back to the way things are now. Everything would be different and awkward and like walking on eggshells all the time. Like I said, it's stupid. I'm sure that she'll say yes. There's no reason for all of this idiocy on my part. I look for something else, anything else, to focus on while we make our way through the queue. There isn't much. Unlike the main areas of the park, the ride lines haven't been decorated for the event. Luckily, we reach the front of the line less than 15 minutes after we enter it. My suffering is short. My suffering. Jesus. I sound like a first-year English major that thinks he's a genius, yet misunderstood poet. I've let this go on way too long. The minute we get off this ride, I'm going to find someplace quiet and have a talk with Kelly. I'll get down on one knee and propose. I have no idea exactly what I'll say, or how I'll make it romantic in a place like this, but I'll just have to figure it out. I've got the ring with me. I want to spend the rest of my life with her. The rest is just details. There's no time to think about that now, though. Our car has arrived. It slides into the station hanging down from the track rather than sitting on top of it like most roller coasters. Its smooth metal and plastic is painted black with a snakeskin pattern. Yellow eyes have been drawn on the front of the car. The car is designed to look like a serpentine animal, hence the ride's name, the Phantom Predator. The car has 3 rows with 2 seats in each. We're at the top of the stairs as it slides into place and stops, so the attendant walks us over to the front row and motions for us to get in. Kelly takes the seat on the far side, and I sit down in the other one. The Phantom Predator is a pretty intense ride by roller coaster standards. Because of this, getting secured in the seat is a bit of a procedure. I buckle the lap belt and tighten it before pulling the bar in front of me up to my waist. After pushing on it to make sure it's locked in place, I reach up and pull down the shoulder restraint. It's tight against me, but not so much that it's uncomfortable. The shoulder restraint blocks most of my view from side to side. All that I can see of Kelly is her shoes and a bit of her legs. I can hear her and the other riders getting strapped in their seats, though. Each time one of the restraints locks into place, the car rocks slightly. I hear the attendant say something to the operator. There's a loud hiss of escaping air, and the top of the seat begins to tilt forward. In addition to being a hanging coaster, the Phantom Predator lays the riders flat and facing the ground to give the feeling of flying. I smile slightly as my pulse quickens. My nervousness about the upcoming conversation can wait. This ride is always a rush, and now I get to experience it at night. My seat locks into place. For a brief moment, I'm simply staring down at the platform below the car. I look up at the opening a few yards in front of me just as the car jerks and starts moving forward. The bright light of the station gives way to the combination of darkness and neon glow of the outdoor track. The ride begins slowly as the car smoothly follows the track around a small curve. There's a split-second pause at the end of it before the car begins to ascend at a steep angle. This is the first and tallest incline on the Phantom Predator. Knowing what comes once we reach the top, my smile grows into a grin. As we approach the pinnacle of the hill, I look around as best I can from inside the harness. It's a fantastic view of Arcadian Heights. The combination of illuminated rides and the colored lights from the buildings and walkways creates an awe-inspiring spectacle. I don't get much of an opportunity to admire the view, though, as the car rapidly reaches the top. It hangs at the top for just a moment, long enough to build both anticipation and just the faintest hint of unease. Before I can process those feelings, however, the car is plunging downward. Wind whips across my face as I yell out in excitement. The rush is incredible, that mixture of danger and safety that only roller coasters can provide. The darkness of the night only adds to the thrill. Even with the glow from the track, it's impossible to see exactly where the bottom of the hill is. Just as it starts to feel like we're going to smash into the ground, the ride evens out before rocketing off to the left in a slanted turn. I feel wet droplets against my skin. The Phantom Predator extends out over a small man-made lake, and at 2 points in the ride, it comes close enough for fountain spray to reach the passengers. It's not enough to actually get someone wet, just mist them. The curve comes to an end, and once again we're rising upward. The angle isn't as steep as the first hill. The ascent up it is faster though, and within a few seconds we're rocketing back down. The ascent up is faster though, and within a few seconds we're rocketing back down. This is only the build-up. It's to gain enough speed for the next part. My stomach drops as the car goes into the massive loop. First I'm facing towards the ground, then outward, and then upside down. The speed picks up even more as the car enters the loop's downswing. By the time it goes screaming into the next straightaway, we're going faster than at any other point on the ride. I know that the second loop is coming up now. It's not as large as the one we just passed through, but the speed at which you race around it more than makes up for the lack of size. I let out a yelp of excitement as the ascension up the track starts. All of the ride's lights suddenly go out. As we're at the top of the loop. Because I'm upside down, I don't immediately register it. It's not until we're coming down the other side that I realize that I can't see anything at all below. The light has been dimmed throughout the ride, but this is the total absence of that light. It's like I'm blind. We reach the end of the loop and the track flattens out. I know from riding the coaster many times before that there's a small hill coming up, but I can't see it or anything else. I can feel the car starting to lose speed though, and that isn't normally how the ride works. The car arches as it begins up the hill. I can feel it start to crest the top, but there isn't enough momentum to make it over. Instead, the car decelerates even further until it comes to an agonizing halt. We hang there for a pair of heartbeats. Slowly, the car slides backwards back down the hill until it comes to a rest on the straight section of track below. No one says anything for a long moment. The only sounds are the faint creaking of the car as it slowly sways in the track, and the noises of the amusement park somewhere out beyond the dark. "What's going on?" Kelly asks from my left, her voice nervous. "I don't know," I admit. I think it's a power outage." I try to remember where on the ride we're at. If we're between the third hill and the second loop, I'm pretty sure that puts us in one of the two sections of the track over the lake. As my eyes begin to adjust to the darkness, I find that I'm right. I can just make out the surface of the water a dozen or so feet below. I crane my neck upward as far as I can. This part of the lake is blocked off from view from the rest of the park by a ring of trees, but I can just barely make out a faint glow beyond them. I think that only the Phantom Predator has lost power, although I don't know that for sure. "Someone has to be coming to get us," Kelly says, more to herself than to me. "Yeah, of course," I assure her. "Or they'll get the power back on and bring us back to the station. I'm sure we won't be here long." I can hear the other riders talking amongst themselves behind us. Although I can't make out the words, I can still hear the anxious tone behind those words. I have to admit that I'm getting more than a little uncomfortable myself. Being stuck in the dark is bad enough, but hanging face down at the same time is a whole different experience. The minutes pass slowly. There are multiple times where I open my mouth to say something to Kelly, but each time, I close it when I realize that I don't actually have anything to say. It's a strange situation. "Can anyone up at the front see anything?" Someone yells from behind me. "Someone coming for us or anything like that?" When Kelly doesn't reply, I call back, "No, nothing. I can see lights, though. I think this is the only thing without power." "Of course it is," another voice chimes in sarcastically. "Just our luck." It's hard to argue that. The odds of this happening when this exact group of people are on the ride at this exact time? Well, I'm not great at math, but even I know those odds have got to be low. "Hey, I think the power's trying to come back on," the first person says. "I can hear the fountains." I turn my attention back to the water below and listen. There's definitely a gurgling sound coming from the lake. It's like the fountains are trying to come back on, but aren't receiving enough power to get to full strength. I wonder if this is more of a brownout than a blackout, a reduction in power rather than the total loss of it. I'm starting to get a headache. Hanging in a face-down lying position in the darkness is disorienting, and whenever I raise my face to look forward, my stomach churns. My arms and legs are also beginning to hurt. The harness and straps keeping me locked in my seat are fine for a short ride, but I've been in them long enough now for them to start really wearing on my body. The car suddenly rocks violently. The riders, myself included, yell out in surprise. For one horrifying moment, I wonder if the car is becoming detached from the track. The rocking slows, however, and after a few seconds, it's still once again. "What the hell was that?" someone behind me demands. "Are we going to fall?" a woman asks in a quavering voice. No one answers her. Everyone falls silent. I grind my teeth nervously as I keep expecting something bad to happen. When nothing does, I slowly force myself to unclench and relax. "What do you think that was?" Kelly asks me, her voice so quiet that I almost can't hear it. "I don't know," I admit. "Do you think that was the power trying to come back on? Or maybe they're doing something to the track to try to get to us?" "Maybe. I don't know." I barely get my reply out before the car rocks again. It's much more gentle than it was the first time, but it's still enough to be noticeable. Although some of the passengers cry out, it isn't as loud this time. Most of them are probably in a similar mental state as I am, where I'm silent not because I wasn't startled, but because I'm in a state of shock. Either because it didn't happen the first time, or it's easier to hear without as much immediate noise. I hear a different sound this time. There's a splash in the water below. I think it's coming from further back in the car than where Kelly and I are positioned, but it's hard to tell for sure. Was that splash from the fountains? Or did something fall off the car and into the water? That thought sends me down a mental spiral. If parts are coming off the car or track, we could be in a lot more trouble than we realize. There's no way for us to get out of these seats. Not with the harnesses making it impossible to reach the releases. The car falling into the water would be a death sentence. I think Kelly has come to the same conclusion. I hear her start to cry in the seat next to mine. I instinctively try to reach out to her, but of course, my harness stops me well short of her arm. "Everything's going to be okay," I tell her lamely, not sure what else to say. She doesn't answer. I don't know if she didn't hear me, or if my words aren't reassuring. It's probably the latter rather than the former. "Is everyone okay?" One of the passengers, a man judging by his voice, asks. "We can't see each other. Call out where your seat is." "I'm in the middle," a woman replies. "Next to you. I'm okay. Scared shitless, but okay." "Front seat left," I call out. "I'm okay." There's a short pause before Kelly chokes out. "Front seat right. I'm okay too." There are 6 seats in the car. There's silence as we wait for the people in the back seats to speak up. The seconds tick by. No one else says anything. "Back seat?" the man yells out. "Can you hear me?" There's still no reply. "Hey, folks," he tries again. "Are you both alright? Say something so that we know that you're alright." No one replies. It might just be my imagination, but it sounds like the bubbling noises below us grow just a bit louder. I think back to the splash I heard after the car rocked for the second time. Had the back riders fallen into the lake somehow? Maybe their harnesses had released when the car shook. That didn't make much sense, though. Simply shaking wouldn't have been enough to trigger the harnesses to open. The ride moved all over the place when it was operating. Even if the harnesses had released, there were still the belts. And wouldn't someone say something? Even if it was just screaming in fear if that had happened? Although I can't really see the lake below us, I know it's not that far. Maybe a 15 to 20 foot drop. If someone fell into it, they wouldn't have fallen far, and we would have heard them swimming or at the very least flailing about. I don't like this, the woman says. Yeah, no shit. I don't like it either. We're stuck out here and now apparently 2 of our fellow passengers have vanished into thin air. A very morbid part of my mind wonders if they haven't gone anywhere, but are instead hanging dead in the seats. I shake my head in an effort to clear that particular thought out of it. Did they pass out? The woman asks. I'm feeling kind of lightheaded myself. Yeah, that's probably it, the man answers, sounding hopeful but unconvinced. If that's what happened, let's hope they get us off this ride soon. Oh, I'm Carl, by the way. Gina. How about the 2 of you up there? What are your names? I'm Nathan, I tell him. The woman with me is Kelly. Nathan and Kelly. Nice to meet you both. I wish you weren't meeting while hanging from this damn thing like a stuffed animal in a claw game, but still, nice to meet you. It's a lame joke, but I still chuckle at it. I feel some of the tension leave me. Not much, but definitely some. That was probably Carl's intention. It must have worked on Kelly as well, because I hear her sniff a few times as her sobbing subsides. I smile slightly. This is what happens when she gets nervous or scared. She releases her intense emotions in a momentary breakdown before dusting herself off and facing her problems head on. She's a lot stronger than many people give her credit for. Sorry about that little meltdown, she says sheepishly, keeping her voice loud enough for me to hear, but not the people behind us. I just needed a few minutes. No problem, I assure her. I'm on the verge of a good cry myself. No, you're not, she teases me. You wouldn't know what to do with your emotions if they came with an instruction manual. God, I really wish that I had thought to tie my hair back. I can't keep it out of my face. I can't believe you didn't plan on the ride breaking down. She snorts. Yeah, poor planning on my part, right? Wait, what was that? The tone of her voice rapidly changes as she asks the question. At first I can't figure out what's caught her attention. As I listen, however, I start to hear something moving in the water below. It's not the fountains. Whatever it is, it's moving back and forth at a measured pace. Is that one of the people from the back row? The woman, Gina, asks hopefully. Hello down there, Carl calls out. Can you hear me? As if in response, there's a loud splash from the lake. It's quickly followed by a spray of water droplets that mists over my hands and face. The car is shoved to the right, and it extends out from the side of the track for a pair of heartbeats, before swinging to the other side. It rocks back and forth, slowing with each swing until it settles back into an immobile position. Jesus Christ, Gina exclaims. My God, what the hell was that? I start to tell her that I don't know what happened, but she continues on rapidly before I can. That thing! What the hell was that thing? Carl! Carl, you saw it. You had to have seen it. What was it? Carl doesn't answer. There's more noise in the water below as something thrashes about. Oh, God, Gina repeats. It pulled him in. It pulled him under. What the hell are... My head slams into the side of the harness as the car lurches even harder. Water washes over me. Not just a light spray this time, but enough to soak through my clothes. The horrible screech of metal on metal echoes around me. Unlike the other times, the car doesn't settle back into its original position. Instead, it slams back down and locks into an awkward tilt that leaves my left side lower than my right. What? Kelly begins. Quiet, I hiss, cutting her off. There's a new noise. It's the sound of water running off of something and splattering against the surface of the lake. I listen to it move slowly from under the middle section of seating to directly below us. For a split second, I see it moving. It's a black shape against the darkness. I can't make out the details, but whatever it is, it's big. It descends back into the lake with a loud splash. The wind picks up slightly. I start to shiver from the combination of the chilly October air and my soaked clothes. I barely notice. The entirety of my attention is locked directly below me, towards the water and the creature that I can't see, but I know is there. Creature. That word sounds so strange in my head. What I saw moving, though, it wasn't a machine, or some trick my eyes were playing on me, or a barely seen twisted reflection on the lake's surface. It was something alive. There's no doubt about that in my mind, despite how hard my mind is working to reject that realization. Holy shit, Kelly whispers. I don't answer. Whatever that thing was, it must be what rocked the car. It did so 4 times, and now 4 people are silent or gone or dead or whatever the hell has happened to them. The riders have been talking loudly before the attacks. Did the noise draw it to us? Kelly swears again, and this time there's an answer from below. Something churns and splashes around in the water. She must hear it too, because she sharply inhales before falling silent. Okay. We just have to stay quiet. Everything is going to be fine if we just stay quiet. The noises below are growing louder and more aggressive. Any second now, it's going to reach up and do to us whatever it did to the other riders. Or maybe it knows we're here, but because we're being quiet, it doesn't know exactly where. Maybe all of this thrashing around is, trying to provoke a reaction from us. Trying to get us to make noise. I immediately latch onto that thought and cling to it. If that's what's happening, we have a real chance to survive this. I try not to think about what happens when the power comes back on, and the ride itself makes noise as it starts back up. As if the universe has decided to pick up and run with that, the car creaks loudly as it adjusts itself back into a flat position from the angle it was stuck at. Water erupts upwards as the creature emerges and slams into the car directly above our seats. It's close enough for me to see it now. It's some kind of black tentacle-like protrusion. It's roughly the width of my body. It's covered in thin spines or needles, and smaller thin tentacles the length of my index finger extend from the flesh and writhe around them. This isn't the creature itself. It's just a limb. There's something far worse waiting in the lake. The tentacle remains still as it grips the top of the car. It takes me a few seconds to realize that I'm holding my breath. How sensitive is this creature's hearing? If I release the breath, will that be enough to draw its attention to me? Can it hear our hearts beating? I struggle to think straight. If it could hear something that minute, we'd already be dead. As I watch those small protrusions twist and squirm, however, it feels like logic and reason are the last things that have any place in what's happening. My lungs are burning. I hold on for as long as I can, but eventually, I am forced to release the breath. I let it out as quietly and as slowly as possible. I can barely hear it in my own ears, but the creature must be hearing it somehow, as the tentacle slides a bit downward and towards my seat. The protrusions stop their writhing and go straight as they point towards me. It knows where I am. Any second now, it's going to make contact with my body, and I'm going to die. The panic is starting to take over. I search for some way to force the tentacle away, or at the very least draw its attention away. If only I could get myself out of this fucking harness. I don't know what I'd do if I could, but at least I wouldn't be completely trapped in place like I am. Hell, I can't even reach out to try to defend myself because of how my shoulders are pinned back. An idea comes to me. I don't know where it comes from. It's a little terrifying that I'm capable of having such a thought. It's not just distasteful or wrong. This thought is evil. A voice in the back of my head tells me that's wrong. There's nothing evil about wanting to preserve your own life. In fact, there's an argument to be made that doing anything necessary to save yourself is both the legal and the moral thing to do. It's textbook self-defense. No, there's no way that I'm going to do it. Even if it worked, I couldn't live with myself. The tentacle and its many feelers come even closer. It's an agonizingly slow pace. There isn't much distance left for it to cover, and I don't have much time before it reaches me. I close my eyes as I struggle with the dilemma. I just need more time. More time to think things through. More time to come up with something else. Anything else. This can't be the only way. I open my eyes again and look at the creature's limb. The long and short of it is, I don't have more time. And I can't think of anything else. If I don't want to die, this is the only possible way to save myself. My hand is moving down to my side almost before I make my decision. I think a part of me knew that I would be making this choice the second the thought had entered my mind. I don't know what that says about me, but at this exact moment, I don't care about that. All that matters is doing what needs to be done. While I can't extend my arms out in front of me because of the harness, I can still move them up and down. Making as little noise as I can, I slip my right hand into my pocket and wrap my fingers around the object inside. I pull my hand back out slowly and put the velvet-covered box on my knee. This is going to be the trickiest part. Gripping the sides of the box with my middle finger and thumb, I use my forefinger to slowly raise the lid. Carefully, I keep the box pushed against my knee as I remove the engagement ring. I hesitate. Am I really going to do this? I set my jaw. The decision has been made. If I want to live, I'm doing this. And I do want to live. It's as simple as that. Just as the tentacle is about to make contact with my face, I throw the ring to my right. The band strikes Kelly's harness, bouncing off of it with a loud metallic ding. The tentacle whips over towards it and out of my view. I hear Kelly scream in fear and pain. There's an audible crack as the car swings towards that side. Her scream instantly cuts off. It's replaced by a wet, gurgling sound. Another crack, and the tentacle slides back off of the car and down into the water. I didn't get a good look at it as it disappears, but I think it was wrapped around something. It's not hard to guess what that something is. I could be wrong. That keeps echoing in my head over and over again. I could be wrong. Kelly could be fine, still locked safely in her seat and simply keeping quiet to stop the creature from coming back. There's no way to know for certain. I had to do what I did. There was no other choice. I had to. Didn't I? Yeah, of course I did. It was like an animal chewing off its leg to escape a trap. Sometimes you have to make difficult decisions in life. That's what had happened here. It's stupid to worry about this now. I can sort through things later. At this exact moment, I need to concentrate on staying as still and as quiet as I can. Okay. Good. It's working. There's no sounds coming from below me. I'm nervous and I'm sweating, but I'm keeping things under control. All that I need to do is wait for the power to come back on, and everything is going to be okay. With some effort, I get my muscles to relax. I feel something slip out of my fingers. In horror, I realize that I forgot that I was holding the ring box. I can't see it falling through the darkness, but I do hear the splash it makes as it lands in the lake. The tentacle bursts back out of the water and comes right for me. There's no time to react before it presses up against me. Sharp spines dig painfully into my skin, and I can feel the smaller protrusions moving against my body. I open my mouth to scream. I barely get anything out before the black flesh clamps down over my face. More of the spikes pierce my lips and cheeks, with one going in far enough to pin my tongue down to my jaw. Agony erupts from 1,000 places at once. I can't breathe. I can't move. This is more than the weight of the tentacle. I'm completely paralyzed. What has this thing done to me? The massive limb pulls back. The harness breaks off the car, and I'm lifted out of my seat as the belt snaps. I try desperately to get air into my lungs. I can't draw in the smallest of breaths. I feel my body moving downward through the air as my vision swims and my thoughts grow quieter. Everything starts to feel small, far away. I'm only a distant observer to what's happening. The world slows. My descent goes from rapid to a crawl. I allow my eyes to gently close. Can't feel the pain anymore. Actually, I can't feel anything anymore. I can't remember what's happening, but that's okay. Whatever it is, doesn't matter anyway. I barely notice the water closing in around me as I'm consumed by the darkness.